St. John.
Yeah. Victoria was so reminiscent of Miss Kisler. It was unbelievable. You're like, fuck, okay.
How many here thought that the scene with the Chili's all sitting at the computers and all that really reminded you of school reunion?
Yeah.
Yes. I saw that one.
The kids, where they're all just tapping away like mad, and they all got headsets on, and it kind of reminded me of that scene in a way. Of course, we have the mad DJ who winds up getting webbed, and
Yeah.
Who was John Leeson?
Yep.
Yeah.
It's like go back to K9, you bastard. We're gonna web you. And the Yeti coming back. It was a pretty weird one. Okay. Well, I've already
silver balls. Sorry. Yeah.
And pyramid power. Okay. Okay. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Own Good Files. I'm your host, Dr. Freedom. And tonight we've gathered to sit down and discuss another little product from Real Time, and that is called Downtime. Yeah. Okay, let's go ahead around. Let's get around and ask. Get hi there, hey there, ho there from everybody. Let's start with AJ.
Hello, you.
William.
Hey now, how you doing, everybody?
All right. Phillip.
Good evening and salutations.
Okay, Graham.
Welcome to a brave new world, folks.
Texas Tim.
Howdy.
And, of course, Matt Rose.
Good evening.
Okay, so this one, I don't know. They mainly shot this one on video. Which, you can tell the difference between, last week's shakedown. But it had some pretty interesting effects in it and all that. Okay, I'll go ahead and let's do opening thoughts. Let's start with Matt Rose. You go first. Opening thoughts on Downtime.
Well, it's been quite a while since I've seen Downtime until we started to rewatch this, and I've forgotten how enjoyable it was. It was lovely to see Deborah Watling next as Victoria, what was going on next. I did like when she was paired up with Sarah Jane Smith when she visited her company. It was really lovely to see Nicholas Courtney in this again as the Brigadier, and then you see Beverly Cresman playing the Kate Stewart, who's now established in Doctor Who by Gemma Redgrave. It was quite enjoyable to see the intelligence and the Yeti again before they even come back to the main series, before that was even brought back. So that was very nice. Story-wise, it's really nice. I really like it. It's enjoyable, and I think it really does hold a candle to when you last seen the intelligence and the web of fear. I think it's a really nice little callback, and I really enjoyed this one.
Okay, next up, Graham.
For me, I'd agree with the actual consensus that of the two we've reviewed, this is probably the weaker of the two, but at the same time, I enjoyed the heck out of this. Just shy of 70 minutes, you get the ever fabulous Nick Courtney back, you get the introduction of Kate Stewart. It's always good to see the intelligence in the Yeti, you've got Professor Travis being the embodiment of the thing. You've got the whole kind of reminiscent of, the occult, something similar to what we had in Big Finish with the 8 legs, combined with the whole New World University. So, very good. And it was good to see the Yeti back as well, Brian. You can't complain. And, again, the weaker of the two, but a fun ride nevertheless.
Okay, what about you, Tim?
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I looked up after reading who wrote it. This is Mark Platt, who actually wrote Ghostlight, and he also wrote some of the new adventures, including Lung Barrow. And he's written quite a bit for Big Finish, including Spare Parts, which is, pretty infamous around, people who love Big Finish. They love that one. Yeah, I agree with Graham. It's not nearly as good as the other one, I don't think. It's not as effective. It just seems like they wanted to put all those pieces together and make an entertaining hour of, kind of what happened next for Sarah Jane, what happened next for the Brig, what happened next for Victoria and, the Great Intelligence. But I do think it really beggars belief, the idea, though, that the brigadier's daughter would be that estranged from him if she wouldn't tell him he had a grandson, for 5 years. I'm like, that's not even cool. That's not even real. I mean, that kind of made me think, wow, how shallow are you? But I mean, I guess that's just drama is what it is. And, but so they could have a happy ending or something. But yeah, I don't think that was very realistic or believable.
Okay. What about you, Philip?
I've watched this many times in the past. I do find it not as captivating as Shakedown, although it's good to see the return, as everybody else has said, the return of the Yeti and the Great Intelligence. I just found watching it just looked to me a bit dated, and it doesn't. It doesn't drag, but it doesn't enthrall me basically. But I'm not going to say it's a bad thing because it's not bad. It's good. It's got all the good people. It's got that Sarah Jane and everybody else. I couldn't understand how Professor Travers was taken over by the Great Intelligence because, well, what did he go back to Jetson and then got ensnared again? I wish they explained why he was still on the Intelligence fraud. But overall, it's a good story.
Okay, what about you, AJ?
I've just only seen this the one time that I watched it. I didn't think it was too bad compared to the last one we reviewed, the Shakedown with the Sontarans. I thought they were more or less pretty equal. I agree the graphics and whatnot were pretty poor for the time, but they did the best they could with the budget they had. Overall, the story, I liked it.
Okay, what about you, William?
I liked it. I really did like it. I put it as even as last week's. Is that you got to remember that at that time there was no new Doctor Who whatsoever. All we had was the novels, and so this being made by fans as a sort of sequel to the Web of Fear, and sort of showing us what happened to Sarah Jane and Victoria and the Brig. That's a good thing, and seeing the return of Professor Travers playing by Jack Wallen, who was Deborah Wallen's dad. That was a good thing, but it's probably one of the last things they did together, working together. That little scene that you see them together talking about family was pretty nice. I know it's a little bit hokey, so to speak, in certain spots like that, but noticing that Kate Stewart was first introduced here, and I do understand how pissed off she is with her dad because. Remember all the stuff that he was doing with UNIT, he never mentioned it to his wife or anybody outside of UNIT. So to her daughter, she was just paying more attention to the military than to her. That's how come she didn't communicate with him for so many years. Because she picture.
You would let him know he had a grandson, though. Come on.
I really don't know because me myself being was in the service myself. I seen kids have such hostility towards their parents that they never bother writing or calling them after a bunch of years. Even when they had a kid themselves, which it's a bad thing. Being in the service, you're so being tough that you can't show your softness. That's probably why his daughter was so resentful towards him. But this is a good story. I compare it same as last week's, so it's not a bad thing.
Okay. All right, let's go for favorite parts. We'll just jump around. Let's start with Philip. What were your favorite parts of this one, Philip?
You know what? I don't know. I don't really have a favorite part. I don't really have one, to be honest. If I had to say, I was thinking about it. No, I can't pick one. I can't really pick one. My apologies.
So, okay, then, all right. That sums it up right there. Okay, what about you, AJ?
Oh, yeah, go on. No, okay. Yeah, at the beginning, with the story with the abbot in Tibet, the staff he was holding looks a lot like the one that Rassilon was holding at the end of time. That part I liked. It was sort of like a weird drawback in a way. The whole thing with the intelligence controlling all the kids, like we said school reunion, that was something that was kind of weird and cool, original. And the giant webs that covered the planet from space. That was a throwback to the Web of Fear as well. That part I liked as well.
Okay, what about you, Graham? Favorite parts?
Favorite? Oh well, it's like we mentioned. I loved how when Victoria was possessed, you had a very, very great similarity to Ms. Kislet for the Bells of St. John. You had obviously the Chili's banging away at their computer, as AJ mentioned. Something similar to School Reunion with Dave Tennant. You've got what was the homeless guy's name? Can somebody refresh my memory? The guy that tried to rob.
That was Jeffrey Beavers.
Yeah. Okay, Jeffrey Beavers. His character is was it Harrod?
Harrod.
Yeah, Harrod, the RAF, the retired RAF guy. Unfortunately, got whacked by the Yeti later on. I enjoyed his portrayal. You thought he was sneaky and demented, and then at the end he was on the Briggs side, so that was quite good as well. And anything with good old Professor Travers, it's always good to see him again, albeit he got his comeuppance in the end. So, yep, good stuff there, Brian.
Okay, what about you, William?
The scene in Tibet with the young Victoria. Was that played by the same actress or another actress? Same actress?
I think it was just a wig with a makeup job, man.
That was her. Yeah, that was her.
Damn, good makeup job. I like that. That scene stood out. Of course, seeing the Yeti attacking the unit soldiers, that was really good. And if something in the little budget that they had, it was pretty good the way they did that. That stood out. Seeing what also stood out, how Victoria does not like being in the current time. She wants to go back where she was, and which is unusual because somebody like that made so much money couldn't use that money to try to contact the doctor. Which that was a sad thing. No, I mean, not the story. I mean, like all these years that she was complaining that she wanted, she didn't want to be there. She couldn't use that money that she had to try to have a little contact with him, whichever one showed up.
Sorry, now that Will just mentioned the doctors, he reminded me of a scene I quite liked that I forgot about. It's about where the brig gets attacked by the Chili's, and before he faints, Harrod comes up to him. He's like, "Oh God, have you changed your face again?"
Yeah.
Also stood out. What stood out when Victoria.
Point though, because.
No, go ahead, finish.
What was that, Philip?
I was going to say, William's got a point about her contacting the doctor. She could have gone to unit and used their space-time telegraph if they still got it.
Well, she might not have known the unit, actually, right? Well, I mean, I guess she did, since she knew but you get my point, though. She wasn't.
Yeah.
Unit is supposed to be kind of a secret military organization, so.
Liberty Hall.
And was anybody else buying the fact that the brig was asleep for 3 days?
Yeah, that was wild.
Yeah. He's old.
Yeah, 3 days, man. I've gone out and get tanked. I've never slept for a day, never mind 3, man. Jeez, yeah.
I liked the scene where Victoria was saying, I want to scream, because we all noticed her from the past that she always screamed in a lot of the stories that she was in.
Yeah.
Just as another quick mention, the bit where the boat get ambushed, Harrod get lured with the steel ball, and then next minute, they're in the boat, they've retrieved the wooden Yeti, which is a symbol, which is the last locust, so to speak. And then next minute, the Chili's come peering down the window, and that was like Attack of the Bob the Builders, man. I'm like,
can we get it?
At least they were better dressed than most cults.
there you go, yeah.
Okay, what about you, Matt Rose? What's your favorite parts?
The same with the start in Tibet. It was nice to see the young Victoria again, returning to Tibet. That was lovely. Also, one of my favourite scenes is still when she's talking to Sarah Jane about her company, and you could tell Victoria was a bit she seemed a bit power mad about her company, that she wanted to take it. Tried to say it was for the greater good. I like that. also did I really loved the scenes with Beverly Cressman and Nick Courtney together because they worked really well in this story. The young Kate and the Brig. Sorry, I'm just really exhausted and thinking here, but it's very enjoyable. I just did have a definitive scene, but I would definitive favourite from this, but it's just been enjoyable to rewatch.
Oh, okay. Let's say, Steven, have you watched Downtime? Steven?
We had a hang on, ladies and gentlemen, do not adjust your TV sets. We had a cameo from our very own Welsh Yeti. Thank you.
Okay, what about you, Tim? What were your favorite parts of this one?
I'd have to say probably the bits with the Brigadier when he was either hallucinating on the beach or dreaming or whatever it was that was going on there. That was pretty cool. And I also kind of thought it was cool at the end where the Doctor's friends are all walking off, after defeating the Menace, and Victoria gets left behind. I mean, because she's not really part of that clique, I guess, or that hasn't been anymore. You know what I mean? You got the Sarah Jane, the Brigadier, and his daughter all reuniting and blah blah blah, going to have tea or what's it, beer or whatever.
Yeah.
But Victoria gets left alone. That was kind of sad.
Yeah, that was kind of a sad ending for her. She's trapped in the 20th century. She wants to go home, but that's just the way it is. Because sorry, you don't have the copyright to contact the Doctor. Here, stop. No. No. Okay. Let's throw a jump ball here. I'm gonna leave this one wide open for everybody. Okay. Now, as you all know, we've seen the Great Intelligence come back in the new series. Now, what did you think of this portrayal of the Great Intelligence versus what we got in the modern series?
This one was more better than the Matt Smith episodes.
Yeah.
Because he did more minutes than the one in the Matt Smith episodes. He had more time.
I will say that Jack Watling did put in a good performance on this one. And also the fact that, he did get more screen time than the Great Intelligence did, later in the series. But, I think it's a nice way of saying, let's compare. Let's see what they want. Anyone else want to hop on that?
And in terms of the whole sorry, Tim, when you go.
I was going to say it's all the same to me. I'm not going to segue into bashing the new series at this point. I just think,
no bashing.
I didn't have a problem with the Great Intelligence in the new series. I thought it was fine. So.
Yeah, I didn't either. I just didn't think he got enough screen time. I really enjoyed Richard E. Grant's performance, as the Great Intelligence. I just thought he should have got a little bit more time in on its own. So,
in terms of the comparisons, if you take the actors aside, I mean, I'd liken the whole concept. In this thing, it was obviously confined within the computer systems and the internet. Again, similar to the Bells of St. John. But I'd liken it, it's like the Snowman as well, where he was confined within the ice globe, and it was Ian McKellen.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one thing that is consistent throughout the Great Intelligence's run, whether it's Troughton, whether it's here, or whether it's Smith, is the fact that he always seems to be trapped somewhere, looking to, escape, and ends up getting trapped again, or whatnot. So, yeah, that's my take.
And to be fair, I think one of the only reasons they made that guy the villain of that half season is because they assumed that those found missing episodes would have been released by then, so it would tie in. So people would see, the Web of Fear, and then see the same villain on television in the current series. Unfortunately, I guess Worldwide sat on those DVDs for another 10 months or so before they released them as part of the 50th thing. So by that time, the Intelligence had already been defeated, right? So
yeah.
Plus, I just thought it was pretty interesting, the fact that this was back when the internet was in its infancy, and yet they made it such a key part of the thing. I thought that was interesting, that they were looking that far, a little bit ahead. That because in '95, come on, internet was like, okay, we're lucky if we can get Yahoo search to work. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but notice that already computer was being used for traffic lights, the cell phones, and stuff like that.
No, but I mean, no, but
we grown too dependent on it.
Yeah, no, but what can you do? I mean, the thing that floored me was all the computers, and you had the big bulky bit at the back of the computer monitors. You're like, my God, how long ago was that? You know,
20 years.
Something like that. Yeah.
yeah,
I know it's not like today we have that nice flat screen. Back then
exactly,
yeah. Okay. Also, do you think Sarah Jane got a little underused in this one, anybody?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do.
A little bit. Maybe she was busy doing something. That's why you didn't see her that many of her.
I was going to say it's probably a question of how much they could afford to pay and how much time she was going to give them. So they probably wrote her in that way. Like, okay, we can get her in for 1 day probably or 2 days and filmed all her scenes. Because you notice she's in it consistently, but not a lot. She turns up in one scene, then about 10 minutes later another scene. So yeah, it's probably all to do with how much they could afford to spend, I guess.
I'll probably agree with Tim on that. I mean, she was in it towards the beginning. Then it was like a lull in the middle, and then she comes into it again for the finale, for the last 15 minutes or so. So you can't really grumble. I mean, you've got to give the actors as much equal screen time as you can, and it was meant to be focused around Nick Courtney and obviously
The Watling.
yeah, you've got the different segments to the story, so you can't really grumble. I thought they got ample time for the most part.
But one thing you got to admit, these guys, were a little bit ahead of their time. Come on, look at the scene with the Chili's in the computer room. That was done in the modern series in, School Reunion. Mm-hmm. Then they also had Kate Stewart, who's now showed up under, with the actress Gemma Redgrave playing her now. So in a way, they have influenced the show, even with this little independent thing. Which is great. This was back when they didn't have Doctor Who on the air. They were out doing it on their own, and bam, look at how much it's influenced the new show. That's an incredible feat. So we got to give props where it's due. Okay. So anything else anyone want to toss in on Downtime?
Well, I was going to say, and following on what you were just saying, is that all these people used to be in the same clique, didn't they? These are the people that wrote the Virgin books and all hung out together. I mean, they all had fanzines they worked on and stuff like that, and they were like the fans that actually took over the show in the long run. So it's not a surprise that Russell T Davies or Stephen Moffat would actually acknowledge this as part of the Doctor Who history, because they were in that same group of people at the time in the mid-90s, I would think.
This is one of those.
Oh, go ahead, William.
No. This is I was going to say quick. This is, even though we can't use the word canon and this stuff like that, but just seeing the character of Victoria Waterfield, this is like one of those unanswered questions that we need to know what is really happening to her now, because whether this is accepted or not, this story, it does leave you with a question like, when we last saw her was when she started, was way back. Way back then. And
I'm not sure. What time was that family from that she stayed with at the end of
1970, roughly.
1970. So it does fit in. 20 years later.
And that's weird. I said, geez, doing all that time, she never got married, had kids, or anything like that. She just felt depressed that she wanted to go back where she came from.
Well, I think the implication was that, she wasn't comfortable growing up in a later time that she was from, I suppose, and also that she had a piece of that great intelligence inside her that was haunting her. Same thing with
Travis.
Yeah. I think that's what they implied.
That's how come I feel, whether this showrunner wants to do it or not, we need some questions answered on the past companions. Whether they're going to do this a whole episode, just a little talk, that's not bad. I just want to know what happened to them.
They've never done that. You don't need to know everything.
They've
never done that. In Sylvester McCoy's time, they weren't worried about what Jamie was doing.
Point.
What happened to him after he left. So.
Well, they did in the audios, though.
What do you mean?
When the Sixth Doctor met of Victoria Waterfield in one of the Lost Stories.
Power Play.
Power Play.
That, and he met Jimmy McCrimmon again, didn't he?
Yeah, he met him a bunch of times.
Many times. Keep my
Well, there you go. There's your answers there. Go watching the bag finish.
If you want to find out what happened to your past companions and whatnot, all I can recommend is Big Finish, because they have touched back on that in a couple of them. Like, You find out about Tegan and all that later on. You find out what happened to Nisa. You find out, so if you want to do that, go to Big Finish because they cover that ground. The main show doesn't have to do that for you.
Man,
So,
I'm still waiting for the mailman.
So
I
at least
got
Big
nine.
Finish, does that for you. You don't even have to really address the main show for that. Plus, come on, they've only got so many minutes per year, so many episodes, and there's so many companions out there. It would take like a couple of years of programming just to go, okay, we got to go back and find out if Tegan became an air stewardess again, or if she became like a crazed Australian terrorist.
Hey.
Sounds more likely. But yeah, some mysteries you just leave as mysteries. Why not?
Or
to the imagination.
She's probably running the Australian Comic-Con.
Sometimes you got to leave it to the imagination. Okay, so we've talked about it. We've rated it, or we're going to rate it. So let's go around. Let's go ahead and out of 10. Let's start with AJ. How do you rate it? Downtime.
8.
All righty. William?
Give it a 9.
All right, that's a good one. What about you, Philip?
Well, because I liked the other one much better, I'm going to rate this one a 7, unfortunately.
That's okay. What about you, Graham?
I'm going to echo Philip. As I say, it wasn't bad. Not to contradict myself here, but magnificent. 7.
That's a slap in the head for you.
What about you, Tim?
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I'd give it a 7. It's a nice piece of 90s ephemera, but I mean, I think the other one was probably a lot more enjoyable. So,
yeah.
Not that they should be compared, but, 7's good enough for me.
All right, what about you, Matt?
It's very enjoyable, very 90s nostalgia, as Tim said. So I'll give it an 8.
Okay, I'm going to hang with most of the rest of the guys here. I'm going to give it a 7. There were just some ways, they were jumping around the story. They did the best they could with what they had, so I got to give them at least a 7. So it was a great effort.
Yeah.
Okay, so for next week. All right. The thing is, I got to find out if the first episode of next week's feature is available. So because what I wanted to look at next week is the continuing ventures of another companion who had a little bit of independent stuff. We're going to take a look at Probe.
Probe. Oh, okay.
You should know about that.
All right.
No. To be fair, it said Probe. Not anal probe.
Yeah. It's Probe is in an anagram or acronym. It's not the Probe.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Okay. Now, how many probes are how many Probe episodes are there?
There was like 5, but we're just going to touch on the first one if it's available. If not, I'll pass you another title.
Okay, cool.
I think it's available.
Yeah.
Well, somebody go rip. Yeah.
Imperative. So we're just going to touch on the first episode. It's very interesting because that one there's a lot of cameos in that series. There's John Pertwee, Peter Davison, Colin Baker, Sylvester McCoy, not to mention Louise Jameson, and of course the lovely Caroline John herself reprising the role of Liz Shaw.
Wow.
And it's kind of like her continuing adventures after she left Unit. So it's almost like an X-Files type of thing in its own way when you watch it. It's a little bit it's a little bit weird.
The first one was called The Devil of Winterborn, I believe, right?
Is that the one? Oh, is that the? Yeah.
I don't remember if it was Zero Imperative or Day of Devil. So we're going to go with the first one, Devil in Winterborn, then. Okay, folks, until next week, take care. Oh, let me get goodbyes from everyone first, duh. All right, let's start with Matt. Say goodbye to everybody, Matt.
Goodbye. Enjoy your evening.
Okay, all right, go ahead, Philip.
Thank you for having me. Goodbye, and we'll see you next week for Probe 1.
Okay. Texas Tim.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Good talk as always. See you next time.
All right, Graham.
Before Philip gets too ambitious and goes for probe number 2, we'll see you next week.
Thank you for having me here. I hope to see you next week.
And AJ.
See you guys.
All right. All right, everybody.
Hey.